5.
Yay!
Okay, so I've never hosted one of these myself before, so this is weird. But we're here to discuss Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, the first book of the Sassy Book Club that I just recently started, and this is weird. I don't know how to do these things. Okay, so I'm Cassie from MissSassyKassie. This is my channel that you're on. And then all of the lovely people that are in this live show are also in the description box, or at least I hope they are because I wrote them all down, so they should be there. And so you should all go subscribe to them. And do you guys want to do introduction and then what you rated the book to start off with? Does that sound good? Okay, I rated the book a 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really liked it. I thought it was amazing. That's all I have to say.
So I'm Bex from Bex and Books, and I also rated a 5 out of 5 stars because it was next level amazing.
I am Katrina from Little Book Owl, and I also rated it 5 out of 5 stars. One of the best books I've read. It just blew me away. So good.
I'm Christina from Christina's Journey, and I rated it 3.5 stars.
So that's different.
I know. I feel like I'm the unpopular opinion here.
It's great to have a different opinion, though. Otherwise, we'll just be saying the exact same thing.
It'll definitely make it good.
Yeah.
Oh, me? Okay. Yes. Hi, I'm Gia. I'm from Biblioteca Archimedes. It's a booktube channel in Spanish. And I rated the book 3.7 stars after I did an edit. It was 4 stars, but then I knocked down a few stars, so 3.7.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
Hi guys, I'm Red from Little Red Reader, and I'm super excited because usually I'm like the whole naysayer on books that have like rated it way lower than everybody else. So I'm super excited to say I also rated it 5 out of 5 stars. So I'm happy to like not be the critic for once. But it was beautiful and I loved it so much.
Real quick, before we start getting into everything, I wanted to say that you can ask us questions in the chat, the live chat on the page that you should be on when you're watching this, or you could use hashtag Sassy Book Club to ask us questions on Twitter if you want. It's probably easier to use live chat, but we'll be looking at both. Yeah, so what can we say without doing spoilers before we get into spoilers? Does anyone have anything?
I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, so maybe I shouldn't say it. I don't think it is, but it might be, so I don't know.
I just have to say that, like, I loved the writing style, I guess. Like, yeah. I think that was...
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah, it was so... I mean, I say this with the other Laini Taylor books, too. I think it's just her writing style is so whimsical and lyrical, and it like, makes it flow really fast, but also it just makes it really, really beautiful.
Yes. I feel like it's so mystical and majestic.
Yes. So many words.
Yeah, and I think it does it really well because sometimes with really like flowery writing, sometimes it feels like the author's trying really hard and it doesn't flow, and you can just tell that they're putting so much effort into it. But this just felt so natural and it flowed really nicely, which is what I really appreciated about it. And I was just constantly in awe. Like I've tabbed up a lot of the book. I don't know how easy it is to see all of that.
Yeah,
but there was just so many wonderful quotes that it was like, this.
Yes.
Exactly.
I know. I can't wait to reread it using my own copy because I originally read it through the library, and so I couldn't like tab anything because I only get it for 3 weeks. I didn't want to have to do all that work.
Yeah. Has anyone actually listened to the audiobook? Because I've reread the physical copy, and at some point I want to listen to it. So I'd love to know.
Well, maybe here for you because you have read it. I started with the audiobook, and I thought it sounded pretty, but I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I started with the audiobook, and it was easier to listen to the story there than reading.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
See, yeah, I had the opposite.
I continued reading the book. I just listened to like 3 chapters, I think.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also found it really confusing. I had like been listening to the audiobook, and then I had to start it over like 3 different times, and finally I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm getting the physical copy from the library.
Yeah, like I think it's one of those books because it is detailed, and not in a bad way. I feel like the details are what give you such vivid imagery for the book. But with the audiobook, I found that because it was so detailed, if I got distracted by something, like a lot of times I'm listening while I'm driving, so if something happens while I'm driving and my attention isn't on the audiobook and I miss something, all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what is happening? Like in the first couple chapters, I didn't even know he went from being a 13-year-old to a 20-year-old, and I was super confused with some of those details. I was like, I don't understand. He's 13. Why does he have muscles? Like,
Yeah, because literally, chapter 2, it's like Laszlo grew up. So if you miss those 3 words,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
and I missed them.
Yeah.
What I really loved was like I loved all the characters, and I really, really loved the world, like how it worked and how beautiful it was. I don't know. The system was very interesting.
It felt really down to earth. It felt really like similar to Earth, but with the blue.
Until you get to Weep, and then it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like that she casually just inserts that everybody has hearts, like plural instead of heart. And I love how it's never really addressed. It's just mentioned like in casual conversation. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, there's like, okay, I think we should mention like spoilers are coming. So
Yeah, I
if you
think
haven't
that's
read the
about
book,
to delve into.
That was a
and
dangerous
you-
though, wasn't it?
No, it was fine. But I was gonna say something, and then I was like, I need to warn. Yeah, so like if you haven't read the book yet and you don't want to be spoiled, which you don't want to be spoiled for this book, it's really good. Go read it. Please go read it. Yeah, bye to the non-spoiler people, and we're gonna get into spoilers. So yeah, I liked that they talked about how like the spirit is separate from the blood, but it works the same way. And then that's like what is important in the thing that Thaon does, where he makes gold, but also
things with gold.
And losing, it'll make you ugly.
Yeah, it sounded the same way as what a Horcrux does.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
That's exactly
Yes.
what the vibe that I got.
Using a piece of your soul, even though the soul and the spirit are different, as they mentioned, it's like the same idea.
Yeah, it felt really similar. And just like, I mean, a different form of magic, but similar outcomes.
Can I mention like a very specific scene that's really not important in the overall book, but I freaking loved it, and it cracked me up, was the scene between Laszlo and Ruza, and Ruza's just like, I am a fierce warrior, I am. He's like, yes, sure you are, sure you are. And that part, when I was reading that particular scene, I remember I was doing the live sprints with Kelly and Dylan on Kelly's channel, and I knew all these people were watching me sprint, and here I am like trying not to crack up at this scene, and I could feel myself like my smile was like coming on, and I'm like, this is the worst time to start cracking. I'm so embarrassed.
At least you weren't almost crying, because I'll read when I work like as a sub, and so I'll have like a set of high schoolers who are just doing, you know, book work or whatever, so they're all sitting silently, and I'm sitting on my desk reading, and then all of a sudden I almost start crying, and I'm like, wow, this is not an appropriate time to be tearing up. I'll look weak. Okay, so I have a question. Who is your favorite character? And you can only pick one.
That's just so easy for me.
Okay, go.
Go.
I just loved Laszlo.
Okay.
He was just the cutest. I just loved him so much.
I felt like he was a really relatable one.
Yes, Laszlo. My favorite one was Minia, to be honest.
Really? What the heck?
Whoa.
I was so aware every time something was happening with her, and I could just see her, and I kind of cared for her. I don't know why.
I kind of get what you mean. Like, because she's definitely not, I don't think she's like necessarily a likable character. Like, she does some really questionable things and don't necessarily agree with everything that she does. But I thought she was a really interesting character to follow.
I would
and like
agree.
kind of getting to understand her, I thought was really fascinating because she's like such a villainous one, but you see her, like Red and I were talking about this the other day, how like throughout the course of the book you kind of see her transform into almost the villain of the story. And that was really cool to see.
I have so many
Especially when you think about the fact that, yes, she looks 6 now, but when everything started happening, she was actually 6. This is a 6-year-old child that's watching everybody she knows be slaughtered, and she takes on the burden of saving babies. She's 6. Like, that is horrifying. It doesn't justify her decisions later. It doesn't, but it helps you understand her, and I just understand the guilt and the burden that she must have felt.
Because like everything that she does is to save herself and like the other godspawn as well. Like she's trying to protect them.
Sorta. Sorry.
Yeah. Like to an extent. I think that along the way she does get it twisted in her head, but I think she still believes that.
I think that that's her, like, in her mind, that's what she thinks she's doing, but I also think that she has like a significant power trip going on, because like there's like that part where I think it's Sarai's point of view, where Sarai is like talking about what she thinks Minya thinks, and she's talking about how like Minya has always been angry that she didn't have the power to move the metal stuff, and like to a certain degree, I can understand why she would have been frustrated, because that means that she doesn't have access to, you know, save her family or the other babies and stuff. But also, the reason that I know that that's not the only reason, at least anymore, is because she gets mad that Laszlo has it once he shows up with it. And like, I remember reading the first time that you watch Minya in the room that's like super dark and she's the only one that can get in anymore because the thing is too small. Like the area where she hid the babies initially. And she's like talking about how like she can still smell the blood, and like it was a moment of like feeling bad for her and like realizing that she's kind of human. I have a hard time feeling bad for her. I'm just like, you're too evil at this point for me to feel sorry. Like, I understand that things happened and made you who you are, but I don't feel bad for you. Or it doesn't make me like you anymore. Like, ugh.
I kind of, although I don't disagree, I kind of just going back a little bit on something you said. You were talking about how she was mad when Laszlo has it, but the reason I think she was more mad that Laszlo has it as opposed to, you know, one of the other family members is because she was raising those other family members, right? I mean, think about every single one of their powers. She managed to utilize it for herself in some way because she raised them and she had that influence and control over them. Laszlo is this total outsider. She did not raise Laszlo. She has zero influence over Laszlo. And here you get this outsider that she can't control who has it. And I think that's why Laszlo specifically bothers her over possibly one of the others having it instead of her.
But there's that power trip again, that I don't have influence over him. I can't control what he does because she's the oldest, even though she looks the youngest, and she's the one who has the power to create the ghosts that help around the house and stuff. Like, she has the control within the house. Like, she's the one that they all follow.
Well, probably because back when the carnage, is that what they call it? The carnage. Yeah. When the carnage happened, she had no control to do anything except save those babies, you know, and it seems like every day since then she's worked to never feel that helpless again. Right.
It's a total psychology,
which makes her an awful but really interesting character.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Doesn't make me like her though.
No, but I can definitely see I can definitely see why that would be your favorite, Gia, just because she is such a complex. She really is. Like, if this were an academic thing, like, I feel like I could write an entire essay with her character.
Does anyone else have one?
Especially the end when kind of she's like good, but then because she saves her and then she's not. So it was Loki-ish kind of.
Yeah. I like that comparison. That's a good comparison.
Yeah. Does anyone else have another character?
There's a character that I wish we could have seen more, and that's Calixte. Is that how you pronounce her name? I think that she's my favorite.
Wait, remind me who she was again?
She was the one that asked Laszlo to write down his theory in the book.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Climb the building.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yeah, I wanted to see her in action.
Yeah.
I mean, they talked about her and that she could do this and that, and I was just like, I want to see more from her.
I feel like she'll show up again. Like, she'll show up more
probably.
when they do the sequel. You know who she reminds me of? Have any of you watched Legion?
Yes.
The TV show?
Cool.
She reminds me of Lenny.
Which one is that one?
The friend. The girl.
Oh, yes.
Not later in the series. In the beginning of the series, she reminds me of her. Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my
That
god,
was
Audrey.
exactly who I imagined her to be. So creepy. Okay, I think my favorite character was not Sarai, but the one who has the power to grow things.
Sparrow.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her. I just thought she was so cute. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those like characters where, I mean, she has she like honestly is the reason that they're alive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But she's kind of the quiet one. And I liked her a lot.
Mhm.
I want to see where she ends up. I want to see some character development on her. Okay, I have another question, but what was it? How did you guys feel about the twist that Laszlo is a god spawn? Like, did you see it coming?
I saw
Was
it
a total
coming.
surprise? Me too.
But I was just like, I knew it was coming, and I was just like, but how? But how?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I tried to figure it out as I was reading, and I never could.
Yes, I
I
agree.
feel like she really laid out, like some people, they don't lay out any clues to try and give you the full shocker. I almost feel like she laid enough like breadcrumbs that she kind of wanted you to have the chance to figure it out. And so because of that, it became more of the how and less of the getting there, which is why I think this book can also be rereadable in the future, because it's not, I feel like some books where you find out the ending and all of a sudden you can't reread it ever again because you know what's coming. But the fact that she made the journey to, how it kind of emerges, I feel like that made it more enjoyable because you didn't know exactly how it's going to come about.
It felt like Fight Club, but What about you, Katrina? Now that you've reread it too, right? Yeah.
I haven't finished rereading it,
Okay.
but yeah, I definitely did see it coming as well. And like, I wish I'd tabbed it, but there was like a couple of like really tiny things that I don't think were necessarily breadcrumbs, but they just made me think, and I was like, haha. Like even in the first few chapters, I was like, I can see it here. So some of them were probably breadcrumbs, another one was just like things in passing, but it was like relating to Weep in some way, and I was just like, oh, I see you sneaking in there.
Yeah. It makes me curious, like, I wonder if she'll go into more depth of like God spawn, not history, but like more about maybe their, not like outwardly powers, like how they each have their one thing, but like maybe how they have, like, do they have a collective mind or something? Because how did Laszlo know all of the things that he knew before? And then like because I remember before he grows up, he's like talking about how he's like pretending to be part of the city, and then all of a sudden the city gets lost, right?
That's because the monk was always telling him stories about Weep.
But why was he the only one that believed in it? Like, there had to have been some sort of connection. I just feel like it couldn't be coincidence. It's just my feelings. Maybe I'm just looking too far.
So I don't know.
I mean, yeah, like I think that's why Laszlo is so like lovable, is because he feels like all of us, because we all like to read, and he's like obsessed with what might be fiction but maybe hopefully isn't. Like, how many times have we wished to get our Hogwarts letters? I still do.
So many.
So like I think that there is a very much of a Laszlo in us, especially, well, I mean, like, at least us readers out there. So like it makes sense that he is likable. And so it makes me wonder if if Laini Taylor was just writing a character that is coincidentally also actually a part of the story, like actually part of this magical part, or if there's going to be like more to like what it means to be Godspawn that no one knows because all of the adults are dead. No one can tell them what the science or the whatever of it. I don't know.
Still so many questions.
I know. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts?
I have a comment. I thought that I can't remember his name right. Errol Fane and Azarine's relationship was really interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Dynamics. It was unusual, but I liked it because I feel like that's. I mean, almost nothing in the book is realistic, but I almost feel like the dynamics of their relationship was kind of realistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The whole. Yeah, go ahead, Bex.
I liked their development too, from when we first saw them to where they ended up in the end. I just thought it was really beautiful.
Yeah,
was especially right at the end. Yeah.
I liked that. I thought I wasn't gonna like Errol Fane. Like he shows up in the city, and I was like, and then immediately you're like, oh, maybe he's a nice guy because he takes Laszlo with him. But I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop the entire book. I was like, when are you gonna turn into a bad guy?
Did anyone see coming that he was Sarai's father?
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Really?
I was just like, what? Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but yeah, that was a moment for me.
Because I felt like they like implied it pretty strongly, like almost immediately when we started getting to Sarai's story, but I don't know.
Maybe I did notice it and then I forgot about it. So when I actually read it, I was just like, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was him, but like I had a feeling that whoever it was going to be we were going to meet. I was like, he's not dead. So I don't remember when it was where I was like, oh, it's Errol Fane. But I do remember thinking like, it's got to be one of these characters. Like, I don't know which one. It can't be Laszlo. He's far too young unless there's some weird time warp things happening. Like,
because there was a lot of time spent on that part of her Sarai's story. So it was like it's not an insignificant part. So it's definitely going to be one of the larger characters, or one that we've met or could become more involved in some way.
Was anybody? I was very surprised to realize that the prologue happens at the end of the book.
I don't know if
when I reread it, I was like, oh my gosh, in the prologue, it literally tells you the worst part of the book at the very get-go. But obviously it doesn't tell you the names. It's like the girl fell, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I'd forgotten that by the time we got to the end of the book. And I think a lot of the time I don't usually take a lot of the prologue in anyway, because you're being told a snippet. Like in this case, especially, you're getting told a snippet of the book that you've got no context. You have no idea what the world is like. Yeah, you don't know who the characters are. So you're just like, oh, something happens. But it doesn't register because you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Honestly, I remembered, but I didn't remember enough details to like immediately identify it with Sarai. I thought it was like Isagal's death when she was.
Me too, initially.
And then, like, even after I finished the book, it still didn't quite connect because I remembered, like, the bloody tears. And it still seemed like it could be Isagal at that point. It wasn't until Katrina had said something to me about it. I'm like, wait, what? I reread the prologue, and then I just felt even more upset.
Yeah. I'm, like, too shook to reread yet. But, oh, my God. I just remember thinking once we find out like what Isagal looked like and what Sarai looked like, I was like, holy shit, wait, but Sarai's alive, so obviously it's Isagal. But then we find out that Errol Fane, slew her. So then I was like, well, how the fuck did she get down onto the earth? How did that happen?
Right.
And then all of a sudden we start getting that scene where the thing is tilting. I'm like, oh, I hope it's not Sarai. It can even be my favorite character. I can't even remember her name.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
Sparrow?
Yeah, Sparrow. It can be any of them. I was like, please also let it be Minya. Dear God.
That would have been too easy.
Yeah, I know.
No, there would be no need for book 2 if that happens.
All I know is that Laini Taylor needs to fix this.
Okay, so speaking of the very detrimental part of this book, was anybody like, so how I felt when Sarai gets caught by Minya, I was like super devastated. Like I knew that was gonna happen, but I was like hoping beyond hope that she was already gone, like that Minya couldn't get to her. So how did you guys feel about that scene?
Yeah. At first, yeah, I was, so bittersweet, because I was like, yes, we get to see more of her, but she's like no better off being in this situation than if she'd like actually managed to completely die, I guess, and not be tethered to the world and under Minya's control as one of her minions.
Did she do that on purpose?
Yeah. So it's like, yay, she's not completely gone forever, but also, yeah, this is not what I want for her.
No.
Reading the scene when Laszlo and her have their reuniting, like after she's a ghost, I was already like, this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. Like, I'm so stressed. I already know that what's gonna come next is Minya being an asshole.
Yeah.
So,
and that she was.
oh my God, I was so sad. I just was crying too much. Katrina got my emotions all in a text message.
Oh yeah. I was waiting for someone to be like, okay, I've reached the end.
Oh my God.
I know, and then I just blew up both Cassie and Katrina. I was like, I need to talk about this. I can't deal with this.
It was too much.
What to do with my life?
It was too much. Well, yeah, and Christina, didn't you just finish it?
Yes.
So
like
are you
2 hours ago. What?
Are you reeling? Like, are you okay?
Yeah, I mean, I know. I think I was kind of spoiled that the ending was very devastating. I didn't know what was happening or what was gonna happen, so I was just like, okay, something bad is really gonna throw me off. And it's Laini Taylor, so I knew something bad was gonna happen. So yeah, it was shocking, but not that much.
Like, you knew that something was gonna happen. You just didn't know what would happen.
Exactly. I was surprised by what happened, but I was just like, okay, yeah.
Oh my God, it's so intense.
I really thought that it was going to be either I didn't think they would actually kill Sarai, so I thought it was going to be Ruby or Sparrow. Either Sparrow, because nobody wants Sparrow to die, she's a sweetheart, or Ruby, because she kind of pissed everybody off toward the end, sort of. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I have to applaud Laini Taylor for, is that she doesn't do it easy. Like, it would be a way easier choice to kill Ruby or Sparrow or the boy that I can't remember his name either.
Sparrow.
Yeah. It would be way easier to do that, right? And so, like, it's nice to read a book where she didn't take an easy route. Like Sarah J. Maas. I love her, but she always does.
Laini Taylor.
Yeah, she always makes it difficult for you. And then you're like, why? How dare you?
I just have an entire book to fix this, and I expect it to be fixed.
I mean, like, how are you gonna fix it? Is the question.
I don't appreciate your negativity.
I'm sorry. It's just like, the only way to fix it is to actually kill Sarai, which would be really sad still.
I don't think that's the only way to fix it. Have you not met Laini Taylor? Well, I haven't met her, but like, this whole book is magical. There's got to be something. That's the, like, that's sort of the benefit of having a magical world, right?
Yeah. Have you read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy?
Yes.
All of you?
I read half.
No, not me.
Okay, so no spoilers, but she has this fascination with death and life after death and the soul and all of that. So I at some points I was just like, okay, this guy need to go to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone world, fix everything, and then come back.
Yeah, that would be perfect. If we could just, if they're in multiple dimensions and you can travel through or something, like, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Kelly says Reed said, I kind of thought Laszlo was going to be Azarine's child after we found out that she had a God's child. I feel like that could still be a thing.
It just kind of depends, like, when she had the child, though, because it sounds like right around the time that Scathus had Azarine was what incited him to become the Slayer. And we know that Laszlo's 20 and the carnage took place 15 years ago, so that leaves a 5-year gap. And I don't, it's not that it's impossible, but I don't know that the timeline totally
true.
works, especially because he was gone because he ended his 3 years with the slaying, and she was taken after he was already taken. So I don't think that the timeline matches.
I wonder, like, remember how we get that information about how, like, anytime anybody showed Scathus's gift, they were taken away. And so, like, obviously Laszlo had his gifts. So where were they taken? Like, were they purposely given off, like, away from Weep to, like, keep them safe, or?
But
like,
I know a bunch of them were taken away as soon as their gift showed at all. That's why Minya hid her gift, even though it wasn't Scathus's gift. She hid it so she could stay in the nursery.
Yeah. Oh, but anyone's gifts. But then doesn't she say something about, like, how if anyone showed Scathus's gift, they were, like, super, like, really? Maybe I was just reading it incorrectly, and she was just talking about if anyone showed a gift, then they got taken out of the nursery. I don't know. Now I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't remember that detail.
Okay, what power would you hope to get out of the ones we know exist?
Oh,
that's a hard one.
Taros. I like her power. It's harmless and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it is.
That is very true.
That's the easy way out, Gia.
I like Sarai's. I like
hers
Her eyes is
grosses me out, sorry. Like, anytime they talked about I don't like moths. My
Me
dad
neither,
got a
but the
moth
power
stuck in
is-
his ear. No thanks. He did! He had a moth stuck in his ear. He had to go to the ER to get it taken out.
Yeah.
in that. I was like, I don't remember the scene in the book at all.
No, my dad, like 4 or 5 years ago or something, like a moth flew into his ear and was trying to rip out his eardrum. I mean, that wasn't what he was trying to do, but it was what was happening. And so they had to go to the ER. So in case that ever happens to you, if you get a bug stuck in your ear, which apparently is really common, the nurses were like, oh yeah, this happens all the time. Kill it by putting water in your ear, drown it first so that it can't hurt your eardrum, and then go to the ER and get it watered out, because they basically throw really hard water jets into your ear and have it come out. And it's disgusting. And he kept it. He has it in a jar. It's disgusting.
I really
took a turn.
never ever have to use
Sorry.
it. I hope I never have to use it.
Yeah, it's really good information to know. This is why I'm scared of moths, though. So every time she talked about her thing, like the scene where he's like, oh yeah, there were a bunch of moths up above me. And I was like, no. No.
Not today.
I don't know what power I would want, though. What is
Rise is cool, but it sounds like exhausting because she needs to have that.
Mm-hmm.
What's it
But
called?
wasn't that really her lack of sleep? Wasn't that only because she did so many years of giving other people nightmares that it it was the consequences of so many years of that? So I guess if you didn't abuse it, it might not be.
But who
I still wouldn't want to be
knows what I would do
nocturnal,
with that, so.
I am
don't
nocturnal.
want other people's heads. Other people's heads scare me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be cool to be able to see other people's dreams, but I wouldn't want to be nocturnal.
No, that would suck. I don't know. I mean, as kind of a terrible gift as it is, and it's really terrible and not moral at all. I think Minya's gift is really cool. Not terrible. Like, I don't know. I just I keep thinking about all the other gifts. I'm like, well, Mizarthium doesn't actually exist, so I don't know what use I would have for that.
That's the one I think I would pick. Like, imagine if you could just use any of all of our metals that we have here, or if Mizarthium also exists, whichever one. But like, imagine if you had full control, you could make whatever you want.
This is true.
It sounds so awesome.
I guess in the context of Mizarthium actually existing, then that one would be probably the best. And you can actually use it without screwing shit up unless you want to.
Yeah, you don't have to be an asshole like Scathus.
Imagine how easy it would be to break out of a prison if you could just manipulate any metal.
Yes.
Very handy.
Oh yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If you had to pick one of the gods to torture you, I mean, one of them is going to torture you, and you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
Oh no.
Which one was the one that can take away memories? That one.
Starts with an L, I think.
Oh.
Yes.
I would pick her.
I mean, that'd
None of
probably
them
be the
were
better option.
None of them were great.
No.
You have to pick one.
This is so cool. I can't even remember their names.
I know.
Maybe the one that nobody knew about, that whatever her power had something to do with secrets, and she was so secretive that nobody knew she exists. And you know who I'm talking about? Like, she's the one that drew out the powers, and maybe her, only because I don't know what damage she could really cause.
You'd go in blind at least.
I know, it's like, this sounds horrible. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, I would not. No.
that's horrific.
I have a question for you guys, and this is based on why I rated the book 3.7. I was debating so bad about this, but did Sarai and Laszlo's romance didn't feel a little insta-love for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think so. And like, I didn't like that fact, but also I think it's such a big book as it is. So I feel like if we had more time to have that develop, it would have lagged a bit. But I think that needed to happen for the ending to have such an impact. You know what I mean? And to be, it's like it needed to kind of happen, but.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it, but I feel like it didn't bother me as much as Insta-Love normally does. Because normally I'm just like, oh my God. I think because the whole feeling of the book was already sort of magical and whimsical, it didn't really strike me as all that odd for this sort of magical sort of love to sort of strike up, because it felt, I guess it worked in the context of the book. I would have liked a little bit more development, but it wasn't enough to really bother me that much.
Yeah. And I think as well, just the fact that where they were meeting was in Laszlo's like a dreamscape. So that itself felt really intimate as well. So from the get-go, it felt like it was very, like it just, I think in the brain is like kind of intrusive, but also like I felt like that allowed for them to develop a bond faster. But I do think it probably needed, I think that, because when they finally started talking, they'd kind of like been aware of each other for a little while, questioning what's real, blah, blah, blah. But I think if there had been a few more times where they'd spent time in his dreamscape, like a few more nights, it would probably worked a bit better for me.
I almost wish that they spent a lot of time traveling to Weep. And
They did. They did.
That was definitely, I like, once we got to the love story, I was like, why did we spend so much time on this traveling when we could have had more time with them developing this love story that needed to happen? Because that is definitely like one of the only complaints I have, but everything else overshadowed it for me. So it doesn't like, it didn't make or break the book. It was just like, that's kind of irritating, but then we're moving on to all these other cool things.
Is that neither one of them had any experience with anybody else, like ever. They've never had any experience with any noticing them. And I kind of feel like when you're young, that can be kind of a common thing. Like you first find somebody that you're sort of you sort of take an interest in and they take an interest in you, and it can happen very, very quickly. And although usually when I think of that happening, I think of it more at the age of like maybe 14, as opposed to, you know, being what, 18, 20, however old they're supposed to be. But I guess if you're both sort of isolated, it might kind of arrest that development a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. That makes it, that almost like puts it a little bit better, even in my mind. I don't know. I also really liked the scene where Sarai goes into the room where all of the outsiders are, and she's like, "Ooh, that guy's hot," and it's Thaon. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Ew."
You know nothing, girl.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about Thaon yet.
Oh yes.
So can we talk about how I had to ask Cassie if Dion and Laszlo were a thing?
Oh my god, that was so early. I was like, definitely no. It was when like before you know why they have an issue, they're like very beginning, and you only are getting Laszlo's, and he's like, "Why would Dion want my shit?" And
And
like all that stuff.
clue in that there's like a history between them, and I'm like, oh my god.
Did they date?
It's so funny.
And I was like, absolutely not. I'll tell you right now, that's not where we're headed.
And then kind of like Laszlo's, you know, or not Laszlo, but Thaon is really arrogant and conceited, but you don't really dislike him, you know, to that full extent yet. So it still seems like a possibility. And then later you're like, no, your Laszlo is way too good for him.
He is an interesting character.
Yeah.
Like I think I take back my Sparrow favorite character. I think Thaon is my favorite character. He's so interesting. Like,
Because I think a lot of his decisions are like a product of
yeah.
his growing up as well, like how he was raised and the situation he's in as well.
Yeah. See, for him, I could like get some empathy for him. For Minya, I had no empathy. And oops, I don't know why that worked out that way it did, but maybe it's because he's not, you know, crazy and stealing other people's souls for slaves.
Yeah.
Kind of
I think
True Blue dedication to science. I thought that was cool and interesting.
Yeah.
He reminds me of
definitely.
Prince Zuko from The Last Airbender. So I kind of
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, I do like that.
What do you think, Bex?
I think I started hating Minya like to a next level when she started manipulating is it Great Ellen?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
When she started
Sister.
changing them, I was like, I hate you so much.
That was definitely a low.
Oh,
Because they felt not like they didn't feel like ghosts. They
Yeah,
felt
exactly.
real. And then
They
she
felt like
started,
they had more agency.
yeah. Yeah, and then she started playing with them, and I'm like, you are shit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That was definitely a really sad moment. I was like, no. I'm trying to help.
And it just it like it didn't only make me mad at Minya, but it made me like recognize this like terrifying power. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you already know that she is a little bit creepy and a little bit scary. Like, they're all aware of that. But the second she starts messing not only with Great Ellen as a person, but also like by doing what she's really doing is messing with Sarai's ability to sleep.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, you're scary.
And she looks like a child, so it's even scarier.
Yeah. I was like, this is a horror movie. Like, I'm not into it.
I feel like part of me really, really would love to see this movie adapted if it was done like really, really right with like real budget and dedication. But part of me feels like they wouldn't give it that kind of like attention, and I don't want them to touch it and ruin it.
It would be so visually pleasing.
But if they could really like give it that attention, I feel like it would be awesome. Like I feel like it would be really cool, and Minnie would be so creepy. Like
Yeah.
to like actually see her like that.
Or even a TV show, but like it needed to be on HBO or Stars or something.
I agree.
So that it has a budget.
Yeah, but I think I'm the only one that imagined everything as a movie, but like Coco, maybe.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh.
I imagine
that.
everything like that. Even I don't remember the name of the animal that at the end Laszlo was writing to.
Thing.
Yeah. When I read that, I was just like, oh, this is just like Coco, like the lion in Coco that could fly. I was just like, reminds me
I
of it.
haven't seen Coco yet.
No, wow.
I know. I need to go see it.
You have to. So good.
I was supposed to see it a couple weeks ago, and then just the timing of the movies that were available did not work for our day. It was unfortunate.
I basically had the choice to see Coco or The Greatest Showman, and obviously we know which one I picked. I'm sorry.
The Greatest Showman, though.
I know, it's so good.
Yes, it is.
I'm sure they're both good. I have a feeling that I will really like Coco once I finally see
When
it.
it comes out, I will definitely be watching it just because I won't really get a chance to see it in theaters like I hope to. Because I really had hoped to see it in theaters, but
Mhm.
things happen.
Does anybody have a favorite quote or multiple? But
So many.
Okay, let me check. Hold on.
I know I'm going to Goodreads right now to see which ones I
really like some of Laszlo's really subtle but funny things. Like he's talking to Master Hurricane right at the very beginning, and he's just telling Strange to get outside and have a look at the horizon. It's saying a man should have squint lines from looking at the horizons, not just from reading in dim light. And Laszlo's like, "What's a horizon? Is that like the end of an aisle of books?" I was like, "Oh,
cute."
Yes.
Okay, I have one that I saved, and I know there were so many, but this is the only one I wrote down. One looked at him and thought, "Here is a great man, and also a good one, though few men are ever both."
mm-hmm.
I think that might supposed to be, I looked at him and thought, "Here's a great man, and also a good one, though few men are ever both." But it made me have Vicious vibes.
I have one that it says, but it's kind of long, so sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
When he first came to the library, he thought surely he would find answers here. There were the books of stories in the dusty sub-level, of course, but there was so much more than that. The very history of the world, it had seemed to him, was all bound into covers and rolled into scrolls and archived on the shelves of this wondrous place. So sorry.
I love things like that. That are just talking about the wonder of books.
I feel like mine is less about it saying something so much as how it's written, just the phrasing of it, that I just found particularly resonating and beautiful. And it was the part where he's 13 and he's pretending to be the Tizerkane warrior, and it's that scene where Weep, the real name of Weep, is stolen, right? Mm-hmm. And it's described as the word had broken from his mouth like a curse, leaving an aftertaste of tears. You could have said that in so many ways, but she said it in the most beautiful, lyrical way possible. So it's not really that quote can be applied to anything, but it's just how she chose to write it that just stuck with me.
Mm-hmm. It's so pretty.
Yeah, and there's on a similar vein, just the way things are said. His mind traced the arabesques and coils of an alphabet that looked like music sounded. It's just so sensory.
Yes, that line when I read that, I was like, man, I wish I was listening to the audiobook. That would have been cool said out loud.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
One that I have right here is good people do all the things bad people do, Laszlo. It's just that when they do them, they call it justice.
Ooh, I like that line too.
Yes, it was amazing. I was just this book is just so thought-provoking. So many times I had to put it away and think about what I just read, and then just kept going.
You almost need to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more you think about it too, the more you pick up on the other things that you didn't connect to while you were reading.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I feel like this would be a very interesting book to reread because I'd be so interested to see what I missed knowing everything I know now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All those breadcrumbs.
I like bread.
I think my favorite thing of this book was that I could associate it with reality, like what we're living right now, where like everything is made of your experiences. For example, we see so many wars and things like that, and everyone thinks that they have like that they are right because of what they have lived through. And it's just like there's no black and white, and you can see it perfectly here because everyone had a reason to hate each other. And it's just like every single time that Laszlo or Sarai wanted people just to talk about it because so many years had passed and they didn't need to hate each other, but the past was just there and it was on their shoulders and they couldn't help but hate each other, even though they
and fear
they could have solved everything if they just talked. Maybe not everything, but it wouldn't have been that complicated.
Yeah.
But since they have this hate that because of what they experience and their parents and their grandparents experience, it's just like they are blindsided by it. And you see it over and over again in reality. So that was very interesting for me.
And it reminds me of that one line that I also like, that hate spreads like a disease.
Yes.
You know, because it's applicable to the book, but it's applicable to real life because, I mean, I think even in just our personal I can't talk anymore, personal lives, I feel like you encounter those people that, you know, they develop a hatred for something, whether it's founded by other people's, you know, opinions or not, but it literally just poisons their life and poisons them ever being able to heal or move on. You know, and I feel like that's a really, really interesting point that you bring up because it does almost make the book hit closer to home because of it.
Yeah.
It felt too real.
It was a little too real sometimes. Like, for as fantastical as the book was, I was also just like, so many things that are in real life, which, I mean, I guess is another point to being a great author, like being able to write things that are real within a fantasy world. And even, especially without even making it obvious. Like, it's not even like they're waging a war. It's not like the same exact thing that happens in our real life, but with a magical creature or something. It's totally different than anything we've actually ever experienced. But all of those feelings that are existing in their scenario are real feelings that people feel now. Crazy.
I think it's interesting too, because like kind of like the point that was already made is that what's unique about this book is that there are villains, but there are really no villains, except maybe the gods who we've never met. There's really no villains, like, entirely, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody has, I mean, even Minya, like, in her story, like, she's not the villain. Everybody else are the villains, you know?
Hamilton quote.
Villain.
And now I'm the villain of your story. Sorry. I needed to. Yeah. That's crazy.
I even wrote here about that all this hate. I wrote this based on, like, I needed to put my thoughts down, so I wrote all this hate seems so ridiculous and frustrating from the outside, but in reality, it's the same thing that we see in the world.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to judge them because we're on the outside, but when we actually think about it, it's just like, oh well, but yeah, it happens here too.
And I feel like Laini Taylor did a really great job of giving you everyone's side, like of giving you all of these reasons. No one is just like blatantly evil, except for maybe the gods that are dead. But like, yeah, I mean, even Minya, you do get. I just don't have a lot of empathy for her, but like you get her story. Yeah. So like, I don't know, like, and listening to Errol Thane and his dad, and his mom and Azarine, like, all of their stories and the reason that they hate these god spawn that they don't even know exist yet at the time, but like understanding their fear that creates the hate, and oh my god, really well done is all I have to say, I guess.
It's so conflicting.
It is.
I've had so many feelings, I just can't. I'm just
like,
conflicted the whole time.
Yeah, you can't even decide who you want to like win. Like,
yes.
Exactly.
Who do you even want? Like, who could you say
you don't know whose
I'd be
side
happy
you're
with
on.
dying? Like,
I can't pick.
I would pick Minya, but besides her.
Besides her, that's the easy choice.
Yeah, she is an easy choice. And
I
like,
feel like that's sort of the running theme. It's about not excusing anyone's actions, not excusing Errol Fane and slaying babies, not excusing Minya and, her wrongdoings. It's not about excusing anyone's behavior, but it's about understanding why it's occurring. That it's not just done, because you want to cause mayhem. There's a story, and it's just about understanding why it is, even if their actions are not excusable.
yeah, and that's what I think maybe the reason that it's easier for me to feel more empathy for like Errol Fane's character than for Minya's character, even though Errol Fane killed babies and Minya she was a kid when all this happened. Like, I think it's easier to feel bad for Errol Fane because we actually got his story first. Like, we met him before we knew who he was, is what I mean. Like, we got to know him not as a creep. And then eventually we find out that he killed babies. And you're like, but he's a good guy. Like, obviously there was a reason. It's just fear, sorry. And you can feel bad for him. Whereas Minya, you kind of, like, already find her creepy. And then you get to know more about her. And she's, like, getting more and more creepy. And then you finally find her story. And you're like, oh, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. But also, you were already creepy first.
I think the reason it's a little bit easier to be softer, I don't know. I mean, he really killed babies. So
overall, he probably is the worst.
I think the reason it's easier to be softer on him is, I mean, I can definitely see your reason as well, but it's the fact that Errol Fane seems open to changing the dynamics of things. He seems open to talking. He actually seems like he shows remorse. Like, he is not saying, like, he's not happy with his actions. Even if he tells himself the reason why he did it,
he still feels guilt
or not, but you see that he's trying to change so that this doesn't have to continue to be the future. Whereas Minya is so, like, she's stubborn and she's so stuck in what she wants that she won't even be open to considering anything else. Like, at least he's showing growth.
Mm-hmm.
And
I find it interesting too that, like, I think it's interesting to know that, or at least from what I gathered from the book, like, Minya, the reasoning behind Minya wanting to wreak havoc is for reasons of the babies being killed and stuff, but it's really an anger, revenge reasoning, whereas a lot of the people of Weep are angry, but also scared. Like, they have fear of, like, what happened before and all the women who were taken and all of that stuff. Like, they're afraid that it'll happen again. And so that makes them hate those people that are up there and that they don't know.
Well, I think Minya is scared too, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's all of those feelings exist in both of them, but, like, the overtone is anger from her and fear from the people of Weep. Whereas, I mean, I'm sure that the people of Weep are also angry and Minya's also scared. But those are the general tones that you get from the two sides. And so it makes you feel a little bit more bad for... But, like, generally, the Godspawn are afraid, too. They're afraid that they're going to be murdered if they get found out. So, like, obviously that's all there, too. It's so complicated.
What's funny about this live show is that, don't get me wrong, like, I don't want Minya to win at all. Like, I'm very much, like, want Sarai and Laszlo to have their happy ending, and Minya just can't be part of anybody's happy endings because she's established that she's incapable of that. That being said, I don't know if it's, like, Gia's influence or just the overall discussion of her, but I feel like I'm starting to develop a soft spot that I don't know I'm proud of, but, like, I'm starting to feel more and more defensive of Minya. I'm like, but wait a minute.
She feels to me, I'm just going to keep bitching about it, sorry. She feels to me like the character in My Sister Rosa, the little sister. Like, that's Minya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the same vibes. So creepy.
Vibes. She's the type of child, the type of 6-year-old. I mean, I know she's not 6 anymore, but, like, the fact that she
is in a 6-year-old body, at least, or looks like it,
and sometimes acts like one. The stubbornness and stuff. Like, she feels to me the type of kid that in our real world would be murdering cats.
Okay, just a theory here. Okay, so we know that physically she is unable to grow because she is literally given everything that she doesn't even have enough in her to continue growing. So it makes me wonder that, yes, she has developed in the sense that she's not actually 6 anymore, but it makes me wonder if the fact that she's still in that 6-year-old body and that growth has been stunted physically, that is why she's stunted like mentally from being able to move on, because
absolutely
she still has that 6-year-old stubbornness that can't see outside her own little world the way a 6-year-old wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you think even just about the hormones and chemicals in the body, it'd be so different from someone who was like 10 years older. So that in itself, as well as the fact that stunting her growth physically would also probably do it mentally as well.
Like the part where she had no way of understanding Sarai and being on her period and bleeding and all that, because she was, in regards to that topic, she was still her 6-year-old self that had never developed even just the hormones or anything along with growth to be able to have that kind of empathy, you know?
She's creepy.
Creepy.
I mean, I think it's like she's been through a war. She's seen so much, and it's difficult to get. I mean, she's been like a mother to these people, and she's never had one. So I don't think that her lack of empathy is something to be surprised of. I do understand her point of view. I do not agree with it, and at the end, like, you can see that she doesn't. She's protecting, but she's really proud. And she just wants to play with people. Like, you can see it because, she just likes to see the world burn. It's okay.
And she wants to win and be right. Like, it's interesting because I probably have, like, I'm a very stubborn person and I like to be right. So there were parts of Minya that I was like, those are the worst qualities that I have. Just showing up, being really loud and proud up there. It freaked me out.
Is that why you dislike her so much? You see too
probably
much
that was me admitting that's probably why.
What Minya really needs is a big timeout.
Yeah. I don't like being
naughty corner.
Definitely. All right. Do we have any more like questions or last minute thoughts from any of you?
I have a question for you guys that read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy.
Okay.
Did it feel like, while you were reading it, at any point that this story was very similar to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone story? Because that was my problem with this book. I was just like, I feel that I have read this story already, but this is a different world with different rules, but the core of the story is the same.
I mean, okay, so my opinion's not totally valid because I only read half of the first book.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the fact that I liked this book enough to continue it, and I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. There was a reason that I never finished the first book of Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I didn't connect with the characters. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about their romance. Like, I just couldn't make myself care about it. So for me, and again, maybe the rest of the series ends up being much more similar to this book. I wouldn't know. But at least from the part that I read, I didn't really pick up the similarities because, well, I loved one and disliked the other. So
Yeah, well, that would be because the first book is basically them on Earth, and then the rest of the series is this.
that's why I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I definitely can see it that, like, because you're mentioning it, I can definitely see similarities. But while I was reading it, the main thing that I thought was similar was the way she wrote. Like, it's so beautiful and like whimsical and all of these things. And so that was really similar. That was a constant, like, this is why I love Laini Taylor. I'm so glad I picked up another book. Like, here's the other, like, just more of this beauty. But I didn't really get a lot of, like, I feel like I'm reading the same story. I felt like it was really different.
Okay.
But I can see what you're saying. Like, thinking about it critically, there are a lot of similarities.
Like, a lot. I was just like,
yeah,
this is so similar. Even the motives of, like, what I mentioned with death, and even with the blue, because Karoo has blue hair and blue is important in Daughter of Smoke and Bone too. So I was just like, So
and
that's
the like hating for no reason thing too. That's really
Yes,
prevalent
exactly.
in Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Yeah, you have these two different species hating each other. So I was just like, that's why I gave it a 3.5, because I felt the story was the same.
I can see where you're going with
Not
this.
because I didn't like this book, just because I was just like, oh, okay, I know this.
No,
I know this.
Been there, done that.
I feel better about your guys' lower ratings now that I understand where they're coming from. And now I'm like, you know what? Like, if I had that experience reading this book, like, I probably would have felt the same way. You know, so it makes me really. I feel like I almost admire your guys' ratings, only in the sense that you guys thought so critically about this book that I'm just so impressed with your insight, and I like value what you've had to say about it. That makes me like, it doesn't change how I feel about the book, but I don't know. I feel like
It makes me think more critically about it for sure.
I feel like I understand and look at the book a little bit in a new light, and I'm like, okay, you know, all right, I see this.
Yeah, because the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, next to the Mortal Instruments, is my favorite series. So I have it fresh in my memory, and I was just like,
I can definitely understand. It's so hard when you can't, when you have something you love so much and you can't help but compare something else to that first thing you already know you have so much love for. It's like there's no way it's gonna measure up, you know.
Hashtag carry on.
Thinking that.
Yeah.
I feel so bad.
I love the characters and the whole world. It's just the story.
Yeah.
The core of it.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Have you read it, Katrina? Daughter of Smoke and Bone?
No, I have not.
Do it.
I picked up all 3 of the books after I read Strange the Dreamer, though, because I was like, originally I wasn't going to read it because I've heard like some really good things, also some kind of mixed things. So I was like, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to risk it because like the people that didn't like it just really didn't like it. But then I read it and I was like, okay, this writing is amazing. So I think that's probably a good idea, actually.
Well, this book makes me want to finish the series now. I'm like,
do it.
I was like, the first half of the, like, you know, the part that I read really didn't click with me, but I now, like, I'm so aware of the talent of her writing that I feel like even if the first book might not be totally for me, I kind of feel like it's possible that the rest of it might be. If that makes sense.
Really amazing.
Read it.
Really, really give it another
yeah, they're really good. And unlike Laini, this Strange the Dreamer was hard to get into the audiobook, but I did not have that issue with Daughter of Smoke and Bone at all.
Me neither.
I did the audiobook for Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and it was read really well. I guess I shouldn't say that there's anything wrong with the audiobook because I think that it was read well. But I almost I do have like the physical books as well. So might want to try going back like with the physical book and see if how I perceive the characters is any different, you know, not having these like voices and tones in my head. I don't know if that does that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We do have someone who asked, do we have any idea when the next book comes out? And I think it's a no.
I don't think it's been released yet. The date.
No, and there's not even there's no indication of when the next book will come out. I included it in my 2018 anticipated reads because I was looking at a blog post that had included it as potential, but there's absolutely no news about it.
Yeah, it's not even up on Goodreads as like a not real name or anything. It doesn't have anything.
Oh, it's not a real name on Goodreads because it says The Muse of Nightmares on Goodreads.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh.
Yeah, which I think is an awesome name, by the way. I think that's a great name for the.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Right.
The Muse of
Nightmares.
Oh, here it is. I found it. It was way down. I had to like open up more books by Laini Taylor to find it.
I don't think. Yeah, they don't have.
Yeah, it doesn't have any information like a date and anything other than the name. But I'm wanting to read it right now.
I know.
Even the book description is like something you could guess is gonna, you know, like I could describe the second book right now from this book description, you know. I think the only thing we have right now is the title and the fact that there will be a sequel.
Yeah. I wonder how many books. Is it going to be a duology? Do we even know that?
Yeah,
I
it's
think
it's a duology.
Okay, well that's good to know that we're getting the ending.
At least we think so at this point in time. There's so much that could change. They haven't really officially announced like much at all. So who knows?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Duologies are really in right now, though. Remember how it was always trilogies, and now it's duologies or 7-book series?
One end of the spectrum or the other.
Yeah. Like, can you give me a trilogy again? Or a 4? Like, 4 books. That would be nice. 7, too many.
I have a question. Okay, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I'm really the only one, but this... am I the only one that actually really likes I like the UK cover too, but I really like the US cover. Am I the only one that actually likes the US cover?
When I saw the US cover, I loved it. I was just like, I need that book. Besides the point that it was from Laini Taylor, I was just like, oh my God, I want that cover. I want that on my shelf. But then when I saw the UK cover, I was just like,
yes,
it's so much better. And I already had the book, and I was just like, no, why did I buy this?
The one with the UK paperback cover, and it's just so much better than any of them.
And you know what? The version in Spanish has the UK cover.
Oh, okay.
So I'm tempted to buy that one.
I'm a fan of the US one, but I'm actually not a fan of the new UK paperback one.
Wait, what's the new UK paperback look like?
I haven't seen it.
It's like light blue and with a couple of moths, but there's
I
nothing
didn't like
else
that.
on it. It's really simple.
Look it up.
Yeah, I feel like it almost looks more like a contemporary cover.
I love the UK hardback cover, but
so gorgeous.
And like this cover is the reason that I didn't pick it up for a long time. I kept seeing it on. Well, people were talking about it. Like a lot of people were saying they really loved it. No, it actually wasn't the moths, although I thought that was weird. It was the weird. It's too bright yellow. I don't really like the color yellow. It's
That's the thing. Is I feel like the people that seem to hate the US cover are people that have an issue with yellow. Like I have an issue with orange as a color, but I don't really have an issue with
yellow. Orange.
I hate orange and yellow.
Paperback is horrible.
But it's so funny because usually I don't really like the colors yellow and blue together. But for some reason, I love this cover. And I was getting in such a debate with 2 of my friends last night over these covers. And because I had this friend that like refused to buy it because she didn't want the US cover, even though I sent her like 4 links to the UK cover. Like I was like, you can buy it from, I was like, I don't even care which cover you like. Just read the story because you won't care what's on the outside then. But I was just wondering, I'm like, am I just like single person that loves the US cover? I mean, I like the UK cover too, but I feel like the UK cover is maybe like a little bit simple for me. Like I feel like, I think the US cover feels more original to me, and the UK cover feels like I've seen different variations of it before.
I do have to say that the UK cover looks a little bit like it's going to be, what's that genre? Steampunk. It looks like a steampunk cover.
Oh,
yes.
But I just looked up the UK paperback cover to like see what you guys are talking about. And I actually like that cover too. It's cute. It looks like an adult book though. It doesn't look like a YA cover. I think that's the difference. Which I can understand why they would want a book, because like this book could be an adult book. It's not like it's super childish. It covers a lot of very adult topics. So like they could be trying to sell it in both places of the genres or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, the characters all like sometimes felt like they were older, and I kept reminding myself like, no, they're teenagers.
Yeah, they're young. They didn't feel young at all to me either. Yeah, I don't like the US cover. I think it's ugly. I mean, like, I think it's pretty now, but that's because I like the book. But when I didn't know
the cover,
yeah, but when I didn't know what the book was, I was like, I'm not buying that. It's ugly.
I feel like I had, well, I don't know about like ugly, but I almost feel like I had the opposite reaction. The US cover, because I'm definitely one of those people that like buys books because I love their covers, even if I don't know anything about it. And the US cover, like, was really, I was like, oh my God, that would look great on my shelf. And the UK cover, and I'm looking at it, and I like it. I do like the UK cover, but like, even just looking at it now, I'm like, I don't see what other people are seeing, because I feel like looking at the UK cover, it's pretty, but it doesn't give me the, oh my god, that cover's gorgeous, I have to buy it just for the cover. It doesn't like inspire that in me, you know?
Yeah.
And it seems like everybody else would like buy it without even knowing what's in it for that cover, and I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah, I definitely like it.
The only thing that I didn't like that I don't like about the cover is that it messes up with my white balance.
Oh,
Whenever
yeah,
I'm
it's
filming.
so shiny. I don't like how shiny it is either. It's the yellow and the shine. Like, what? Look at why? Why is this necessary?
I like the shiny.
It blinds me. I'm sorry.
But you're already blind.
I'm not blind. I don't want to go blind. All right. I think that we're gonna wrap up. Does anybody have last minute things very quickly?
I have a question. If you had to fan cast Laszlo, who would you pick?
I don't know because he's not supposed to be attractive.
No, he's supposed to be striking in the sense of like a Roman god or something, you know, like that, or a Roman warrior or something. So it's not that he's not unattractive. He's just not classically handsome, you know.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I've got no
All the
idea.
people I would pick are way too old. Like Gerard Butler, too old.
How about Sarai?
Gerard Butler is never too old for me.
Sarai. She has red hair.
I got no idea. I'm terrible at that.
I'm really
So bad.
I'm so bad at fan
They're
casting.
too magical and unique for me to be able to cast them like people.
Do you have them, Christina? Do you have some in your mind?
No, as I mentioned, I imagined them as cartoons.
I do that too.
Like,
that.
I imagined Laszlo like the lost brother of Hades from Hercules or something like that. The only one that I really imagined like as a human being and I fan casted him was the Godslayer. And I thought of Viggo Mortensen in Lord of the Rings. I was just like,
I fan casted the Godslayer as the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister, but that was only because of the similar name.
Gerard Butler.
I couldn't get it out of. I also kept forgetting his nickname as Godslayer. I was like, "Who's Godslayer?" Oh yeah, he's
I
not Kingslayer,
could
feel.
never pronounce his name, so for me, he was the Godslayer.
That's my casting. I cast Gerard Butler as the God Slayer, so he's in there somewhere.
That's good. That's a good choice.
Well, I think we all accept that.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, we are going to head off. I'm glad that this was a success. This was awesome. And before we go, I didn't announce this in the beginning. I should have, but February's book is going to be Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Gaslow. So you can look on Goodreads or Twitter down below. The Goodreads page is my Sassy Book Club Goodreads page, and Girl in Pieces is on there too. Sorry, I can't talk. It's been a long day. Okay, yeah, and with that said, we're going to head off. So we will see you guys soon with
Thanks so
videos
much.
and all those things. Follow everyone on YouTube. They're all down in the description box.
And thanks so much for having us on your live show, Cassie.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I'm glad you guys had a good time. All right, we're going off.